You're listening to a podcast by the Perennial Leader Project. Welcome back to Dying Every Day, Stoicism in a Year. Today is day 28, and we're exploring how to test our impressions. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught his students, from the very beginning, practice to say to every disagreeable impression, "You're an impression, and not at all what you appear to be." Then examine it and test it by these rules that you possess, and first and foremost by this one. Whether the impression relates to those things that are within our power or those that aren't within our power. And if it relates to anything that isn't within our power, be ready to reply, "That's nothing to me." And this passage is adapted from the Enchiridion. Before we move on, let's briefly define our terms. For the Stoics, an impression is an appearance or how something is perceived. Another term to understand is assent or approval to an impression, enabling an action to take place. Because our impressions or perceptions are not always accurate or wise, Epictetus stresses that they must be tested or examined. This is something that Donald Robertson, author of How to Think Like Socrates, recently spoke about on the podcast on day 18. He connects testing our impressions with the Socratic method. Robertson explains, quote, "The Socratic method is an active process of thinking. Its constant refrain is, quote, 'Yes, but,' because it happily seeks out one exception after another to our definitions, assumptions, and other verbal rules. It forces us to think for ourselves by continually placing in question our most important assumptions and values," unquote. Our impressions are automatic, instantaneous judgments, and can often feel like objective reality instead of our subjective perception of a particular situation. Testing our impressions requires humility, patience, and courage to say, "Hold on a moment," or, as Epictetus put it, "You're an impression, and not at all what you appear to be." Consider reflecting or journaling on when and how you might implement this in daily life. It's important to remember that testing our impressions is not our default setting. We only begin to embody these types of exercises with deliberate practice. Thank you for listening to Dying Every Day, Stoicism in a Year. I hope you found something useful for daily life. If you enjoy what we're doing here and want to support the project, consider becoming a Perennial Meditations member. And finally, as always, I urge you to put what you heard into practice. Until next time, be wise and be well.